We're hiking up to the 4th tallest peak in Idaho, and that's right up there behind us. Now it really doesn't look that tall, I think, to the camera view right now, but as we're driving up, it actually looks like a fairly intimidating mountain. It's about 12,000, just under 12,200 feet. It's called Diamond Peak, and it's actually on the way to Salmon in the Lemhi Range. But either way, I'm kind of excited. For the last several years as I drive to Salmon, I've looked at this peak and thought, I want to go hike that. And so finally I talked with my wife a couple days ago and talked her into coming with me for this hike. So we've left the kids at home. This time it's an adventure with my wife. She's never done anything like this, so this should be pretty fun. It is going to be a pretty tough hike. It's about 4,000 feet in only 2.5 miles or so. So, you know, we're really going to be gaining a lot of altitude pretty quickly. Pretty hard hike. My wife's really excited about this. So either way, let's get after it. You can actually see Diamond Peak clear from Idaho Falls. It's the tallest peak as you look off to the northwest. To get there, take Highway 28 north out of Mud Lake towards Salmon. Again, it's easy to see the mountain as you get closer, so it's hard to miss. Once you see the Birch Creek campground along the west side of the highway following Birch Creek, you'll know you're close. Just past the campground, take the Pass Creek Road toward Diamond Peak. Follow the Pass Creek Road several miles until you reach the road labeled 796. Go through the gate and follow the road. Well, as you can see, we're kind of on a bumpy road right now. There's definitely not a main road that gets you up close to it, so you want to look on your Google Earth or something else and make sure you know the route before you get here. But it's right in front of us, and it looks intimidating from this angle. Earlier I said my wife was really excited about this, so now let's talk about the truth. My wife is deathly afraid of heights.
Deathly.
And she's never done anything like this. I don't think she would have dreamed about it. So what's your initial thoughts right now?
What in the world have you talked me into? I should still be home in bed, asleep.
All the mountains I've ever hiked look worse down low than they do when you're on it.
I'm hoping that's the case today.
I've told her that, so we'll see if she makes it to the top. That's going to be the question for this show, is can Candace make it to the top? I don't know, we'll find out.
And will we still be married at the end? So we weren't really lying at all. Like right now, I have that feeling when you're standing in line for the big roller coaster and you're wondering, should I puke before I get on the ride or do I wait till after? Like really, I'm shaking. That's how nervous I am. I really am nervous. Oh.
The first part of the trail is actually an old road that has since been closed. The trail starts out pretty steep, tapers off for a little while, and then quickly starts another steep climb. When you have 4,000 feet to gain so quickly, there's no way around the fact that it's going to be a steep trail from start to finish. As steep as it is, it's easy to navigate the first mile as the rocky slopes are further uphill. It's kind of a gentle way to break you in before the worst hits. You know, it's a pretty steep hike right off the bat. There's a good trail. Actually, one that used to be a road, they've since kind of blocked that off. We've lost it right here, but we can see it up there again. I could see on Google Earth that you can follow the trail all the way up. One thing you do want to remember though coming up, it's not a road for cars. You need pretty good clearance. There was one spot where you may need four-wheel drive. I popped it in just because it was slick dirt and gravel. But make sure if you come up here you bring a truck with some clearance and you should be all right. Near the beginning of the trees, the trail disappears. But as long as you keep just heading up the ridge, you can't go wrong. Just before getting to the top of the ridge, it really gets steep. We just took it slow and worked our way up, knowing that once on the ridge, we'd have a break from the steep climbing. We made it up to the ridge, so now it's very simple to get there as far as direction. We're just going to follow this ridge. It'll curve around, kind of snake around a couple times up to the top. In fact, if you look over there, there's a very steep section where you can see the trail going up it. So we know there's a trail, but now that we've hit the top, we've actually got an easy, probably quarter mile or so following this, and then it's going to hit the steep stuff, and then it's game on from there. But we're making it. So the test is going to be when we get up there on that furthest edge, and it's just a kind of a rock scramble. That's going to be the test up there. But it's beautiful country up here. Great day for this. While Candace probably wished this rock pile was the top, it wasn't even close. Probably just a bored hunter years ago that built the pile. We did, however, enjoy the break from the steep climbing as we followed a relatively flat ridge for about 4/10 of a mile before it got really steep again. Looking at the incredibly rugged mountains, one thing was for sure. Millions of years ago when these were formed, there was some incredible forces at work that buckled the rock layers and in some places folded them in half. The scenery was already amazing and we were just getting started. Once to where it got steep again, we quickly found that the trail was near impossible to hike up because on the very steep slope, it was just loose dirt and small rocks that just rolled out from under your feet. We found that it was much easier to simply make our way up off the trail, stepping on the bigger rocks that wouldn't roll out from under us. Again, it was slow going, but knowing that it would hopefully get easier after this steep section helped us to just continue on up. Now we're on the knife edge part where it just follows this up all the way to it, so more of a rock scramble kind of a thing. We're just going to test Candace's nerves as far as seeing, off the edges, but I think actually that last part is probably the most difficult part. Now we just got to see if we can navigate up through these rocks. Not having done this, I'm not quite sure what we're going to run into. But I think it's definitely possible. But as you can see back there, just incredible peaks out here. They've really got some neat formations. So it's pretty country while we're out here. When we took a quick break and snacked on some food, Candace had a chance to once again look over what she was about to attempt. I could tell she had some serious doubts about making it to the top. At this point, we just had a mile of hiking left, but still another 2,000 feet of elevation to gain. The first half mile proved to be the easy part, as it was very easy to navigate along the open ridge line. It was just lots of loose rock, but there was an easy trail to follow. It dropped off both sides fairly steeply, but the top of the ridge was wide enough that Candace didn't have any problem with her nerves. However, all I could do was look at the last half mile section and wonder how it was going to work out, as it seemed to get rougher and rougher the closer we got. I had hopes it wouldn't be as bad as it looked, but it wasn't looking good.
Testing the nerves.
Well, we've now been on the trail for about 2 hours and 45 minutes probably, and the GPS tells us we're at 11,000 feet, so we've got a little over 1,000 feet left to go. So this is a good place for a lunch break. It's working out all right. So we've gotten on some of this knife edge stuff, and Candace is hanging in there. So there's a lot of loose shell rock though. That's the one thing that's kind of been a problem up to this point. The walking sticks are a must for sure on this with all this loose rock. So hopefully as we get going up here, it's a little more solid rock. But after lunch, then we just got the last scramble. This is kind of what I'd expected the ridge to be like all the way up to the top. As you can tell, it's steep off both sides, but the ridge line itself is very hikeable. If you slip and fall, you just skin your knees up and keep going. While the fear of heights might be unnerving, as long as you're careful, there really is no danger involved when it's like this. However, as it turned out, I had misjudged the mountain, as the last half mile was not like this at all. All right, we haven't gone more than a few hundred yards from where we had lunch, and it goes up pretty steep now. We're kind of out of the loose rock, it appears, right to this point. And now we're going up pretty steep. So we're going to actually ditch the hiking sticks, because I think from here on out it's more of a rock scramble. We're going to need our hands and stuff so we can kind of work up these rocks.
Apparently Jared says we're leaving these sticks here now. I don't know how I feel about that. That we're going to be crawling now.
So just remember, if you slip, you just slip to there.
I'm really scared.
So it's not like you're going to fall down the mountain. You want me to stay behind you?
Yeah.
And if you're not good with it, you don't have to do it. So.
Okay.
At this point, I really started to come to grasp with the likelihood of Candace not being able to summit the hike. It was too bad. She'd come within a half mile of the peak and was already over 11,000 feet high. She decided to keep going, but as I looked ahead, it just looked like it got worse.
I like using my hands.
Yeah, hands are good.
Oh.
Part of the problem was that instead of having a steady incline up to the peak, it was fairly jagged, which just created lots of very steep climbs and several spots where we had to side hill the ridge to get around a point that was too steep to climb. Wow.
What in the heck? I forgot what to do. Honestly, Way out of my element. Way out of my element.
Now I knew it was over. This had just turned into rock climbing and we were still a long ways from the top. As a last-ditch effort, I decided to climb up and see what it looked like beyond this point. Unless I was wrong and the jagged nature of this ridge smoothed out, this hike was over. While I could hope, in reality, however, I doubted it would improve. Sure enough, it was just more of the same. In fact, it even looked worse up ahead.
That's the top?
And no, it wasn't even close to the top. I don't know what got into her, but Candace decided to make the climb up to me. Before this moment, I would have bet money she wouldn't even consider climbing anything like this. So you can imagine my surprise. Of course, as I looked ahead, I knew she would reconsider when she got to the top and saw that it just didn't end and nearly looked impossible. Even though I knew we would be turning around very shortly, I had to give her an A for effort as she was giving it a good try. There was just no way with her fear of heights she was going to be able to keep going. Again, Candace surprised me as she did keep going. I didn't know if she really had blinders on and wasn't looking ahead to see how nasty it looked, but she kept on moving and tackled one obstacle after another. Candace has a hard time just driving roads that have a steep slope, and this was so much worse than anything like that. I really couldn't believe she was still moving forward and was still in pretty good spirits as well. I didn't think Candace would make it up here. Once we got down there, it started getting into some pretty steep stuff. I didn't think there was any way. She just kept going 50 yards at a time.
I just had to put my head down and just look at the rocks and one hand in front of the other. There was times I was hugging those rocks, but we're making it.
We're gonna make it. I'll let Candace lead the way and we'll get up there and summit this peak. As we hiked the last part up to the summit, I really was amazed that in the end, we had made it all the way to the top. Had I known what this hike would have been like, I would have never brought Candace along with me. As it turned out, however, she was able to accomplish something truly amazing that few people ever do.
We're here!
Of course, having summited the peak, we had to sign our name on the list with the others who have summited over the years. It's official. We made it. All right, 4.5 hours later and about 4,000 feet later, we made it up here to the top. And I'll tell you what, I'm really proud of my wife. She did something that she would have never dreamed about doing even yesterday. You know, for somebody that's really afraid of heights, there was a lot of rock hugging and a lot of scrambling up some pretty steep stuff. And, you know, she really had to just push through her fear, and she did it. You know, it's just a beautiful view up here. If you want to try this, I would definitely recommend it. Just, you know, if you got that fear of heights, just kind of come prepared. We had a great time up here. Now we got to see about getting down, and that's a whole nother story. The camera's just going to get put in the bag for that one, and we got to try to snake our way down that steep rock stuff.